You have to see failure as the beginning and the middle, but never entertain it as an end. Good morning, one and all present here, and all those who have joined us virtually. I extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guests, teachers, and students. I, Amy Phillip, of JLU Faculty of Journalism and Creative Studies, would like to welcome you all today to JLU StartUp 2021. As we begin, I would like to introduce our Vice Chancellor, Sir, Dr. Sandeep Shastri. With his veteran approach and extensive experience across diverse domains of politics, research, and institution building, Dr. Sandeep Shastri brings in seasoned leadership and expertise to Jagran Lakecity University. We look up at his 4 and more decades of teaching and research experience, mastering in election studies, federalism, and innovation in teaching. He's been credited with 13 books and 94 article references. I would now request Vice Chancellor, Sir, to address our gathering.
Friends, it's truly a unique privilege to be part of today's Startup Day events. On behalf of Jagran Lakecity University, I'd like to welcome all those who are participating in today's events, those connected with the startups, my students, my faculty, my Dean of Commerce and Management, my Director of the Business School. We have today gathered for an extremely important event in the history of Jagran Lakecity University. You would notice that the tagline of the university is extremely interesting. Igniting minds, changing lives. And I would believe that is what startups are all about. Changing the lives of people by igniting the minds of people. And I am looking forward today to the dialogue we are having with our startup champions, with the venture capitalist leaders and their responses. I would just like to begin with one small point, which I know will be part of the discussion of today's Startup Day celebration. The whole canvas of startups is linked to one critical theme: innovation. And I'm going to place before the group which is in the dialogue today the need to move from the idea of innovation to the imagination of innovation. All of us have brilliant ideas of innovation. And that's where the world of startup begins. There is an idea, a brilliant idea, which you brainstorm with a range of people, and the seed of the startup is sown. But my question is, how do we move from the idea to its imagination? Sowing the seed of an idea is about the breadth. The imagination of the idea is about the depth. And it's that depth of that seed going deep into the soil which results in that startup becoming visible, more visible, and something that dominates the world of tomorrow. So my appeal to all those who are part of this mission, there is a great idea there. That great idea leads to a startup. How do you convert that great idea into an imagination? And the success story of startups is the story of an idea being transformed into an imagination. An idea not merely remaining an idea, but an idea transforming itself into an imagination. And that's the mandate I give to all of my colleagues and those associated with JLU. That is my mandate on this Startup Day. I wish this idea grows in its imagination. I wish this idea blossoms as a vibrant imagination. And I hope that imagination ultimately results in practices that would make this startup and these startups something that would be the story of imagination, the story of innovation in the days ahead. My very best to this event, and I look forward to the deliberations of today.
Thank you so much, sir. Your words were truly insightful. Moving further, I would now like to introduce our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Nilesh Khare. With an experience of over 25 years, we welcome here an academician, corporate trainer, and coach, none other than Dr. Nilesh Khare, sir. Not only in India, we may find him glistening titles in the US and UAE as well. Currently, he's a professor of strategy, Dean Faculty of Management and Commerce, Jagran Lakecity University Business School. We heartily welcome you, sir. I would now request you to share your thoughts to the gathering.
So good morning, everyone. And that's a privilege to be here on JLU Startup Day. That brings the culmination of the week-long coverage of 5 brilliant stories that our alums represent today through their startups. It's wonderful to have the teams here. The 4 teams could manage to be here, and then one would be joining us online. Vishu sir, thank you so much for spending time and being with us. I also welcome Dr. Ashish, who is going to be doing the moderation and the Q&A. I have had a privilege to closely associate with businesses on corporate strategies for now roughly about 25 years, several startups as well. Through the research and strategy, entrepreneurship, and more importantly, through my conversations with people who run businesses or organizations and startups, I have learned a few things. In fact, I also ran a .com that didn't work very well. So there's also a personal side of the story that allows me to rethink. And so there are 4 things that I would like to talk about today and put this for consideration as our venture capitalist friends who have kindly agreed to join us give their feedback, and then our young alums who are changing the world, shaping new lives, new ways of doing things. So it's for their consideration too. I know that in our audience, there are several other people who are excited about the ideas that they are beginning to entertain. We also run entrepreneurship course, which is very hands-on course in association with Vadvani Foundation. And we are thankful to them for the wonderful work that they do and they allow us to do. And I know that there are several practice ventures out there that we have as in the program at SIS running. So to all of those, here are my thoughts in terms of what I have seen and experienced. So there are 4 things that I would want to put on the table for you to think. Everybody gets excited about startups. It has become a buzzword. It has become a very fashionable term also, if I can say that. So the first thing that I would want you to consider is managing paradox of being open to powerful logical questions, and having deep conviction in your ideas. Now you can see the paradox, right? I'm asking you to remain open to powerful questions, very fundamental questions. What problem are you solving? How are you solving that? Are you doing better than what potential somebody else can do? And then also have a deep conviction in terms of the ideas that you have developed. Constantly manage the tension. It's not easy because human brain, when it comes to conviction, has the structural issues that kind of push us towards the bias. If we are convinced, we begin to find the evidence of what we are convinced about rather than remaining open to the powerful question that can come. So that was the first message about managing paradoxes. The second message follows from that. If you are open to these paradoxes, I can almost guarantee you that in your journey, you are going to adapt. The popular term is pivot, whether it's in approach of doing business, in the business model, in the team compositions, in how we're going to raise fundings, the various instruments, or the problem that you're solving, or who are you solving that problem with? So, or for. So all of these things, so I think the adaptability is the second thing that I would put on the table. The third thing that I would say, and just because I'm saying first the 1, 2, 3, that doesn't mean that they have the order. They're almost equally important to me. The third thing is about the team cohesion. And then team cohesion calls for staying beyond the pettiness of power, position, and then the money consideration that can emerge if you are doing something together. Now, it has to be fair, because I have seen that if you are not fair and if you're not flexible to remain fair as the dynamic situation evolves, you are going to find it hard to hold it together. So that's about the team cohesion. The fourth thing that I would actually suggest is not underestimating the need and the value of money or the funding. I have seen several startups, particularly the young startups, they get too worried about their own ownership and the money that's coming in for them. They don't understand how the equity is earned back through the milestone-driven contracts that an external funder might actually give you. It's not the desire to appropriate what you're going to create. And that can be there too. So I'm going to ask you to watch out the vultures, but the venture capitalists are not the vulture. There are vultures out there too. So don't underestimate the need for funding and the people who provide the funds, particularly when you don't have any track records and then you can't access your own money. And then the last thing that I want to put is passion and hard work. Nothing happens, nothing moves without that. But just because you are doing something, the hard work alone is not going to work if you are rigid about these things, if the team is not cohesive, if you are not adaptable to that, and if you are holding your things too close to your chest, and then you are too skeptical about the people who are going to provide you external funds. That's the thing that I would want to share. I look forward to the wonderful teams that are sitting here as they speak about their startups. And I know that each one of them have had their journey. I have had the privilege of listening to some of them in person and understanding their journeys as they presented their progress to various incubators where I have privilege of sitting and evaluating. And I also look forward to my venture capitalist friends or the friends from the investing communities, but what they have to say, the tips that they want to give to them and to all other audience in general about how we should think about the startups. Thank you so much. I'm excited to hear everybody else. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure listening to your inevitable words. To grace our event, we also have virtually joined. We are also virtually joined by some keynote speakers. First, we have with us Prabhanjan Dhotre, strategic advisor to seed and early stage startups across higher education growth sector. Next, we have Samyajit Guha, Vice President PadUp Ventures, consultant at Value Angels Network. Also, we have with us Varun Verma, Vice President, Investment Operations, Lightbox. Now, let me introduce to you all the founders of Pinaculo, Akshat Baheti, and Abhishri Kulshresht. Let's turn our faces towards Pinaculo. This SaaS-based product development startup is on a mission to help everyone explore and use augmented reality to bring their world to life. Situated in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, Pinaculo is aiming to develop AR-based content creation products where application on the Google Play Store called Pair, and even though it's currently in beta and early access, the app looks to introduce people to the world of AR. So now, I would like to invite the founders of Pinaculo, Akshat Baheti and Abhishri Kulshresht, to talk to us about their startup. We already have them connected online.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm audible. Sushan, I'm audible. Hello.
Yes, you are. Should go ahead.
Okay, awesome, perfect. Hi everyone. So I'm Akshat, and I'm right now logging in from Bangalore. So we moved to Bangalore for multiple kinds of reasons. So I'll introduce my startup, and the application name is Pi AR. It's not PAR, so no issues with that. But we were building the startup since in college. So I am an engineering graduate, right? So I've been building, obviously tech excites me, and at the same time I wanted to build something in tech. So since the last 3 years we were building Pinaculo, and we built through multiple, as Nili sir always explained, and has been a great mentor to us in itself, to pivot from the right way, and to also understand the right kind of market that you were in. We were previously an edtech, completely pure edtech based startup, where we had connecting with teachers and students with courses, and then we moved to augmented reality because, again, edtech market became too crowded, and also it was more of like, we didn't have a specific service offering that we could differentiate ourselves in. So that was the basic of what pivot we did. Right now, augmented reality is something that's extremely exciting, but it's at a very nascent stage in India. Even abroad, there hasn't been any significant progress for consumer-based applications for augmented reality. So in the past 3 months, when we were in July, June, and May, we were trying to raise funds to roughly 5 CR, because that's what I needed minimum to get the startup grounded off. I had an amazing conversation with one of the investors that, Akshat, why do you want to build an augmented reality startup for them? We had a great conversation. He said, Akshat, you should get some kind of experience in building technology for other companies and also learn from that. And, and then 5 years down the line, because if you want that 5 years, you need to have some multitude of experience that you can learn in the industry also. So I took that advice, and I moved to Bangalore, and I've been working in an amazing organization at an amazing job. So I build tech and I do that. But at the same time, if I have to part away with just some key pieces of advice for building a startup, first of all, yes, Nili sir, as always, has been on point that it is a buzzword. But the point is, reality is extremely different than what you may see on picture, right? To build it, it is extremely difficult. But yes, one thing that I can say is it has helped me grow as a person much more than I would ever say to anyone else, right? And at the same time, it's been working. You as a student, I have been working for my college to work on your college projects and everything, and managing that has built me into a much better person in itself, to much better time management and work on projects at the end. So working 12 to 16 hours a day, it becomes a part of your life, and you actually start enjoying it, and you become extremely good at what you do. So that's two things that you can say, it's an invaluable experience to build a startup. We are building an augmented reality based connection to discuss with VCs. I can probably send you guys a pitch deck, but other than that, that's pretty much it. And if you have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much.
So Akshat, are you doing this full time, or is this?
Yeah, so I was doing this full time since till June, right, till I was in college. After that, point is I wanted to raise funds, as I said, the point. But the only thing was raising those funds was extremely in India. Augmented reality wasn't someone that was ready to be picked up. We connect with every entity. So right now we are still talks with the campus fund, right, because they're still funding student founders, so they want to take a bet with us. So that's in talks. Let's see how it goes around. But yeah, I want to build it full time. But the only thing is it requires an extreme number of engineers to build it.
And what's the application of the AR? Where is it used?
So we can simply, the idea is to augmented reality. If you wanted to build an augmented reality application today, right, it would take you extreme amount of time, and you will need to learn coding, right? We built a complete application which you can build augmented reality in just like Canva. You can just drag and drop elements and create an augmented reality whole scene and whatever you want, and you can share that with the world. So it's very simple, zero code. That's what you can say, building augmented reality for everyone. So, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, when you have Google Glasses or something that you can visualize augmented reality, anybody would be able to build augmented reality scenes without coding. And there are only 2 more startups that I know about all over the world who are doing this. So yeah.
But so today, where would someone use it? How would someone use it today? Can
So
you give me a
we
real world
started with
application of it?
yeah. So today's real world application would be in learning with medical sciences and technology, physics or anything. So the point is you can do labs because people are working from home, right? You can use it to create your own scene, like a biomedical like skeleton, and use it and check for every bone. Or another application would be if you want to do a music concert, right? A lot of people have not been able to get themselves entertained. The only option that you can do is stream something or watch something, right? But the point is that experience is still not very viable as going into a concert itself. So what if you could just a phone or a Google cardboard and put that and see them in your home? So a person is performing inside your home, obviously through augmented reality, but that still shows a much more wholesome experience. So those are two experiences that I would say like are the most amazing real world applications. But yeah, if you have anything
And
else, I'll be sure.
but you need the hardware, right? You need the so for example,
No,
if you want to, but if I need to watch the augmented reality of the people around me, I would need a Google Glass or something to be able
no,
to view
no,
it.
you won't because you just need a Google Cardboard, or you can just hold your phone if you don't have a Google Cardboard, like for specifically that experience, right? But your phones are enough capable to build out AR. So I'll say on a higher scale, not every phone, but practically anybody who has more than mid-range phone that's more than 20,000, if you're like in a Snapdragon processor, you can run augmented reality. So yeah, you don't need any specific hardware. You don't need anything. Only thing that you need is just hold the phone, or if you have a stand, that's the best thing for a Google Cardboard. That's the only hardware specification that you'll require to experience it completely fully.
Got it. Understood. And have you tried selling the product?
So Varun, we still need to we have built the basics of it, right? So you can just build a drag and drop scenes, right? But to build it on a much larger scale, to build it to production, we'll still require more number of people to work on it. And so yeah, that's why I
No,
moonlight.
no,
I code at night and work
have
at
you
morning. So
tried talking to people who would be potential customers of this and got feedback from them whether they would be
yes,
interested in
so
it?
we tried talking to a couple of schools here in Bhopal, right? We were in conversations with Army of School because we had a good relationship with them, and others were Carmel. So both of these two schools were interested in teaching their 11th and 12th kids at least, sciences through online. So that means you can have like schools, you can just pick up your phone and see a whole diagram or anything that you would imagine about. But the only thing is to develop that completely into production. So we were going for a user-based model. So that's like you can charge for licenses per user. We were paying $3 to $4 if you don't want to create and just want to view. If you want to create, it would be $8 per month.
And they were open to paying that and all that.
Yes, they were open to. APS was more interested. They were like, this is something that this can be implemented for us because I think education took the biggest hit, right? No matter we can say that I still miss my college last year I couldn't attend. So no
But
matter what we can say that
again, with
education came online. So
yeah. So look, I think timing is important, right? One of the biggest things you learn in life
yeah,
is timing is
that's true.
everything, and
Yeah.
every company, in many ways, every large tech company that has got created in the last 10 years, somebody had attempted to create in the first .com bubble as well.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, I think that's just something I'd be cognizant of, right? When especially because having looked at AR and things like that, I find like in India today it's very niche. And the applications
exactly,
and people being able to pay for it, and hence your ability to raise capital will be challenging in the India market.
It all.
If I was you, I would probably try to build for the global market more so today, because one, obviously you have a cost advantage building in India and trying to sell abroad. And secondly, those markets, obviously the phones are better and the propensity to pay for such applications is much greater. So it's just something that I would keep in mind. And I think if you start positioning yourself like that, maybe you'll have an easier time trying to raise money. Go talk to some international clients, show your investors that there are people ready to pay for this. And you may find it easier to raise some money at that point.
So it's just Varun, I took that advice smart, and also didn't want to jinx it, but we are part of we probably will be part of Techstar Seattle for the next round. So yeah, hopefully let's see.
Good luck.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Amazing question. Anybody else?
So this is an interesting space that you're operating in, Akshat. This is Prabhanjan here. I have thankfully had some experience of looking at the applications of AR in various sectors. And, principally what my understanding has been is that AR is more of an engagement platform. AR is basically something that simply allows you to create engagement with the target client that you're talking to. And if you look at it from that perspective, I think there are four very low hanging fruits. You don't even need to get into, events and concerts and anything of that sort. I mean, whichever sector opens up to engagement, I think those are the sectors that can consume AR, which if in today's world, simply looking at the Indian markets and the kind of startups that are attracting money in the Indian markets, you have interiors, furniture, you have marketing, you have gaming. Gaming is coming up big time in Southeast Asia, in India, and principally edtech as well. But most of the offline content based edtech firms. And these are the four sectors which are completely thriving on engagement. And that is exactly where AR comes into the play. So I definitely see a lot of value and a lot of sense in what you're trying to do. But just to sort of raise two flags, obviously, I think that's our job. Our job, primary day-to-day job, is to raise flags. So let me do my bit as well. So the two flags that I would raise is one, AR is something that's not new. Right. So the note which was shared with us also spoke about Pokemon Go, which was a 2016 thing, which is almost 5 years old now. So AR is something that the whole world has seen, and everyone has seen what AR is capable of doing. You obviously have those viral videos going around where a whale jumps out of the gym floor and whatever. Yeah. So that's something which is already there. So I think the pitch need not necessarily be built on saying that I'm something which is very unique to the world. I'm doing something that nobody else has managed to do. I think the market is big enough for you to be able to say that what I'm going to focus on is just keep my head down and try and penetrate some of these spaces as best as I can. The market is wide enough to, for 10 other players to have the same product and still make a good time for themselves. So that's one aspect where I think the play is not about creating a USP. The play is about creating penetration. And that also brings me to the second flag, that when you say you're a platform player, that's what I understand you're saying, that you're creating a platform which is an AR platform, which can be a low code, no code kind of a platform to incorporate AR into somebody else's product. But at the same time, that also comes with a rider that you need to have some degree of understanding of that target sector which you're looking at. So if you're developing something for edtech, you cannot develop a product for edtech without understanding edtech fundamentals, or for that matter, marketing, or for that matter, real estate or anything else. So that's very key, and that is probably where you would potentially have to pick and choose some of the sectors that you want to go with. This is not a game that you're going to be able to play overnight. I think you've gotten very good advice in terms that you should be spending some time in the industry, and assuming both of you do get some experience, real world experience of the real world industries. And then you keep this dream alive. But at the same time, over and above getting this experience, you should also at least focus on 2 or 3 sectors, which you would then want to bring your first version of beta into. And if you follow that path, I think that will give you a lot of focused insights rather than getting just broad feedback. That should augur very well for you over the next 6 to 7 years, which is when it can get into that zone of raising good funds and putting them to good use.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Pravan. I think, okay, so I don't think I can ask for questions. That's what I got.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. I'll connect with you on LinkedIn. Awesome. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Varun. Thank you so much. Sorry for the meeting. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. It was interesting and motivating indeed. Next, we have Beyond Books, a firm which believes in trust, promise, and delivery. They are well versed in academics and admission, training and development, career guidance, and business incubation. Located in Salkeshpura, Karnataka, Beyond Books was started to make sure that the students get quality education with the available resources and a good constructive growth, which is important. They have tie-ups with some popular universities in India and abroad. With this point of view, I would like to invite the founder, Anusha Vishwanath, to share her ideas with us. Also, I request all the keynote speakers to ask all their questions in the end to the founders.
A very good afternoon to all of you. This is Anusha Vishwanath, the founder of Beyond Books organization. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'll just share the screen. Is it visible?
Not yet.
Is it visible?
Still no luck.
Give me a minute, please.
Yeah, you can see it now.
You can see now? Great. Yeah. So let me just give you a light about how Beyond Books organization came into place. It was started by Dr. Ketan Suresh, my husband, who was working for IIMS Bangalore, and he noticed the issues faced by the students there and came up with the idea wherein he could be of help to them by introducing Beyond Books organization. It came into the market in 2019 and structured firm since 2021. What is Beyond Books organization? Basically, it is a firm which believes in trust, promise, and delivery in the field of education. We are into 3 services, that is academics and admissions, training and development, career guidance, and business incubation. So what are our USPs? So how can Beyond Books organization help the students? It is about guaranteed placement assessments, career mapping, higher education, what we believe is quality education, what is supposed to be given to the students. I'll take JLU as an example, wherein Dr. Nilesh Kare sir was my dean, and he was giving us so many, what should I say? He was, providing us with a lot of activities, with a lot of events which were happening in college, which brought the practical knowledge in us, which gave us, which gave us a good introduction to the market, wherein everything was mapped by them, and the quality of the education was too good. That was the reason which gave us a good education. And not only that, it was, we do not wanted the education to be expensive, and we have a constructive growth wherein even in the new education policy, it actually tells us about recognizing, identifying the unique capabilities of the student, wherein each and everything is recognized by the students, and the flexibility of the organization should be provided. So all these things are taken care, and we give them good training sessions, we give them foreign exchange programs and scholarship programs, and we have good industrial visits too, because we have tied up with a few. Other than that, we have to give you a depth about the organization. Academics, the admissions are into 2 places, that is domestic admissions and global admissions, wherein we are into the university. We are tied up with universities in the USA, Singapore, and New Zealand, wherein we are in a good, we are actually been good tie-ups with all the good universities out there, wherein University of West Scotland in United Kingdom, or it might be the George Brown College in Canada, for example. So all of them are tied up with that. And the training programs, what we provide is the language training programs, what we have, the corporate training, employability development skills, the aviation, dining etiquettes, dressing etiquette, each and everything is taken care by us, wherein we work from campus to corporate. That is our main aim. Other than that, these are the colleges where the task is distributed. We have colleges in Mysore. We basically work for South India, and we have colleges in Mysore, Bangalore, and we have in Mangalore, and we have students from Hassan, Mysore, and Mangalore too. Other than that, why should we choose Beyond Books organization? we have to choose Beyond. I mean, why I would say Beyond Books organization is a good platform, because we provide quality education, as I already mentioned, as we are the middlemen from the students to the organization. So we help the students, we make sure that the students get quality education, and we are not into the commercial organization, but we're social warriors. That means that we are not into the corruption or bureaucracy which is there in it. We are social workers, and we want to promote how socially we can work. And scholarship is also provided by us, by our foundation, and individual care is given to each and every each and every student who comes into Beyond Books organization, because once they come in, we take care of each and everything. The documentation is taken care, the admission is done, or each and everything will be taken care by us. And just in case they need any certification courses, that is also provided by us by giving them finishing school trainings. And other than that, the counseling is also given to them if in case they require, and we map their career, wherein we give them good career mapping skills, or we give them we are basically a support system for them if they want to start up something. And yes, the mode of advertisement what we have is, we are on social media platforms, we are into seminars, webinars, and college visits. And other than that, we are into, yes, we are into admissions. So that is Beyond Books for you.
So, Anusha, if
Thank
I
you so
understand this
much
right,
for
I
your
think,
insights.
Thank you.
Anusha, I was saying that if I understand this right, this is principally based on student recruitment, but you've also sort of tried merging career advice and
Yes.
placements into it. Is that right?
Yeah, but we are into academics and admissions too. We are basically
Which
into
is
admissions.
so which is what I refer to as when I say student recruitments.
Yeah.
So typically, student recruitment itself is a massive industry in India. Looking at the number of students that are going overseas for education, be it for undergrad courses, for grad courses, or for postgrad courses. In fact, the biggest company which is in the space, one of the biggest companies that operates in the space, places around 15,000 to 20,000 students every semester. These are the students that go into various countries and get placed across hundreds and hundreds of universities around the world. So that is that the primary business that you are operating in? I'm still trying to sort of understand why would you play on three fronts at the same time.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, did you catch what I said at all?
No, I'm extremely very sorry. I did not.
Okay, I was saying that from what I heard you saying, it seems to have three different business models. One is the student recruitment. Two is the career placement, the placing students who pass out of education courses into actual jobs. And third is the career counseling or the personality development part. These to me sound like three very different businesses, though the target client may be the same, and you're sort of lengthening the engagement with each individual over a period of time. So instead of that engagement being a few months, you're extending it into a few years, as I understand that aspect. But the question that I have for you is, what inspired you to play on these three sort of different business models at the same time under the same scope?
Okay, so basically this, as I already mentioned before, this came into place because of my husband, who, who kind of noticed all these issues which were faced by the students. Because once this, basically in Bangalore, the problem what happens is there are certain colleges which will not accept particular students. So what we wanted to do was give them proper training so that each and every student will be given equal rights. So we came up with the training sessions and such programs so that they learn each and everything, wherein finishing school is included, and they learn each and everything in it. So other than that, wherein we are going to teach them dining etiquettes or grooming and things like that, they are confident enough to go and go to any of the colleges and things like that. So that was an inspiration what we got.
Understood. So, can I ask you to spend a few seconds on explaining what the revenue model is?
On
What the revenue model for this is?
the revenue.
How do you make money out of this?
Well, that is.
Hello.
Hello.
I really appreciate the curiosity of our keynote speakers. In the interest of time, I'll really like to request if you could keep the questions towards the end of the presentations. We'll have ample time to grill all our founders. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have with us Talmel, which aims to urge people to switch from harmful to healthy and restore the balance between humankind and nature, nurturing a sustainable ecosystem, all by promoting and selling eco-friendly products. The startup began with copper bottles and now has an extended inventory of items from bamboo and neem toothbrushes to recycled papers, pens, and many more green and sustainable products. I would now like to invite the founders, Harshi Chaudhary and Pragya Maheshwari, on the stage to share their ideas.
Hello everyone, I am Harshi Chaudhary, the founder of Talmel, and this is Parag Maheshwari, other founder. So Talmel is a D2C brand which is based in Bhopal, and Talmel basically provides plastic alternative products that are So Talmel offers plastic alternative products that are required in our day-to-day needs. Like they are day-to-day essentials like bamboo toothbrushes, neem tongue cleaners, combs, etc. And we believe that sustainability should not be a luxury. Instead, it's a need. So it should be affordable and it should be accessible to all. Next slide. Next slide.
Previous slide.
Previous.
One before that.
Yeah. So we started Talmel to bring sustainability factor in our daily lives. We provide eco-friendly products at a reasonable price. The product quality is also maintained so that it can reach the masses. And we also contribute to our planet by making it a better place to live and for our future generation. Next, please.
Hi, this is Parag, the other co-founder from Talmel. So when we started out, we only had an idea that what we are going to do, but we had no experience, no skill set related to it. So we talked to hundreds of suppliers nationwide. We made a lot of mistakes. We learned from our mistakes and we kept moving on. And we are still building Talmel block by block. Next slide, please. So here are a few challenges which we faced. So COVID-19 pandemic was the biggest challenge for any business and for us. We started when it was COVID-19 lockdown, the first wave. So we couldn't get our company registered on time. No legal formalities. We were not able to complete any formalities on time. The work which should supposed to take only 2 months took more than 6 months. And the next challenge was securing a funding. So when we started out, we planned that we will go for bootstrapping, But at the time it was COVID-19 and no companies were going in recessions. People were saving up their funds, and our families were also very reluctant to provide to finance a new venture. And we both belong to a traditional business families. So understanding a e-commerce based business was a tough and something new for them. So there were more reluctance due to that, but we were determined, and at the end we were able to secure our initial funding. So the next task was creating awareness about our products. So the traditional plastic based products are very cheap and very easily accessible to all, but our plastic alternatives are a bit expensive than the traditional ones. And getting people to try our new products is a challenge because people are very reluctant to changes. And as I mentioned before, we didn't have any experience in the field of e-commerce. So most of the skills which which we needed, we had to learn them on the job. So that is also a huge task currently.
So at Talmil, we provide eco-friendly packaging, and all our products are natural, plastic-free, and chemical-free. Next. Yeah. So let's have some look at our bestseller. We have copper bottles, and the design on the copper bottle is original Talmail's design. And people are usually very reluctant to take out the copper bottle and go outside because of its look or the color the copper has. But we want to encourage people to use copper bottle, to use it outdoor to their offices, college, and other places. Our copper bottles have scratch-free designs. And next. Yeah. So many company claims that their copper bottles are 100% pure. But do you think they are pure copper bottles? Like, are we supposed to trust them blindly? So for this, we provide copper purity certificate with our bottles to guarantee copper purity. It has 99 plus percent pure copper bottle. And in addition, we also give free cotton bag with it.
Next slide, please. So a traditional plastic based, no, previous one, please. The previous slide. Yeah. So a traditional plastic based toothbrush takes around 400 years to fully degrade. Whereas our bamboo based toothbrush only takes 4 to 8 months to biodegrade. And it does the job perfectly. These are BPA free charcoal infused bristles, and there are extra soft ones. Next slide, please. So our neemwood tongue cleaners are a great replacement for the traditionally used plastic based tongue cleaners, and these do the job very perfectly, and these have the goodness of neem with them. Next slide, please. So this is my favorite product, our neemwood combs. So this is not just like any other wooden comb. Neemwood comb is anti-dandruff, static free, and it also reduces your hair fall as it has the goodness of neem. So, you might have a question that where can we buy Talmail's products? So Talmail's products are available on all the leading e-marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart, Men's XP, and others. Next slide, please.
Yeah. So we also next slide. Yeah. So we also set it up some pop-up shops to create awareness about sustainability. So to the left is the shop at DB City Mall, and to the right is the our pop-up shop situated at Lakeview, Bhopal, with partnership with Nagar Nigam. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah, for our efforts towards sustainability, we got honored from Swachh Bharat Ambassador. We were honored as Swachh Bharat Ambassador 2021 by Bhopal Municipal Corporation. Thank you. Next slide. Yeah, we also got featured at some media outlet.
Next slide, please. So what's next for Talmail? So currently we are strengthening our digital presence by getting our products available to more and more e-marketplaces. We have plans to explore offline markets and set up our own distribution channels so that our products can be easily available to retail shops. We also plan to expand our product lines and enter newer categories where we can provide good quality plastic alternatives at an affordable price. Thank you, guys. This is all from us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was something really inspiring. Next, we have Soko. Next, we have Soko, started by Janvi Tiwari, with the purpose of bringing revolutionary change to the Indian underwear market that put frill before function, with product that put women's needs, well-being, and comfort first. With the launch of Soko's Caviar leak-proof underwear, she's set to bring more of such life-changing solutions to existence, encouraging everyone with a vagina to listen to and celebrate their bodies and thrive in comfort. I would like to invite Janvi to put forth her views.
Yeah, hello. Next, please. I'm Janvi, the Chief Menstruating Officer at Soko. Yeah, next. Yeah, next. So we basically make lingerie for women they can specifically wear on their periods. The underwear that is leak proof. Can I have the next slide, please? And next. So basically, it's an underwear that protects you from all kinds of leaks, which is basically pee, period, perspiration, which is basically sweat, or the bleeding you usually have postpartum. Next. So story time. So this, I was 19 when I first started working on menstrual hygiene. It all started from a non-profit project. And it took what? It took many teams and whatnot. We have always been an advocate for sustainable menstruation. And funnily, it was the first time that I was trying, thank you so much. It was the first time that I was trying a menstrual cup, and a menstrual cup basically comes for 500 rupees that a woman needs to invest in. And it's basically lasts you for 5 years to 8 years. It's a silicone cup that you need to put in your cervix in order to prevent the blood from leaking out. So that was my first time that I tried the cup. The first time it fell directly into the pot. So 500 down the flush, quite literally. The second time that I tried the menstrual cup, I was pretty comfortable, but then I got too comfortable and the cup actually got inside of my body and I couldn't get it out. So there I was, literally on the bathroom floor, legs in obtuse angle, mirror in front, trying to put my hand into my cervix that I find that menstrual cup, because मैं मम्मी को क्या बताऊंगी कि मैंने कुछ घुमा दिया अंदर. So that is when it was the first cry for help that I realized that it is not important key for menstruators to switch to sustainable menstruation, there has to be an invasive process. What if we could build a pad into the underwear? Next, please. So our underwear gives you total protection. It is made up of a sandwich of layers, which I do not know agar aap dekh pao. So it's basically goes right above your pubic hairline and goes till your butt crack. So that's where you will be protected from leaks. Conscious choice, the underwear is made up of homegrown bamboo fabric. It's the softest material you'll ever get. Can you, he is the first person जो अभी underwear देखेगा and he will tell you how soft the fabric is.
It's actually very soft.
Thank you so much. So we also work with homegrown certified bamboo fabrics. Next, please. What our values is, we believe in empowering women. Everybody with a vagina is a woman, irrespective of whatever the gender is. We support local. When I'm making this underwear, mind you, this is not a product that we got from China. This is something that is giving business to 10 more businesses, be it the person I source the fabric from, the person who gets the fabric to the manufacturer, the transportation that gets the manufacturer stuff here in Bhopal, the person who's making the packaging, the person who's sending the packaging to me at my place. So we're totally supporting local. We want to give you the quality product, which is why the fabrics are 100% organic and sustainable. Bamboo fabric that we're using are certified. They're made up of world-class quality, which is GOTS, and we're using fair trade. Everybody in the market that we are in business with are paid and or are unse acha discussion humne kar liya. So it's basically an ethical negotiation. Next, please. So the science, sorry. So the science, SOCO ka patented drip-proof technology, how we go about it. So there's an antimicrobial layer, which basically protects you from fungal infections. Then there's a moisture wicking layer, which basically protects you. Am I audible? Yeah. Yeah. So there's basically a moisture wicking layer, which traps the moisture. And there's the absorption layer. I won't touch. So there's the absorption layer that basically holds the fluid in, and then lastly there's a leak-proof layer. So as I mentioned, it's leak-proof. Can I have you again, please? Could you tell our audience how thick the underwear is? अगर मैं बोल रही हूँ कि 4 layer का sandwich है, तो how thick does the underwear look to you?
Like it's like, how do I tell it? It's a lot thick. Yeah.
Sorry. So coming back, next, please. We want every menstruator to be comfortable, to be confident, and to be considerate, which is why we have SOCO. Next, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was interesting yet inspiring. Our next startup is Earn Young, co-founded by Manav Malhotra. Earn Young aims to facilitate and execute professional and productive internships by arranging paid internships to students across all industrial sectors. This platform connects students and companies and vice versa, with the main goal of looking at providing the right opportunity to the right candidate, thus allowing interns to utilize their maximum potential as they seek guidance and experience to take their first step in the professional world. I would like to invite Manav to share his insights.
Good afternoon, everyone. We came in the morning, so now it's afternoon. And thank you so much for the lovely introduction. All right. So talking about Earn Young, about us, we can go to the next slide. So Earn Young is an internship platform that was started back in August 2020, where we had a little struggle while finding the internships for us as well. Like even I applied for a couple of opportunities, and in revert, I had to. They started asking money from me. Now this is what happens when there are open portals, right? And anyone, which gives anyone the liberty to post opportunities. That's when we decided, because first year being in college and entering into your professional journey is a really hectic step. Like it's really something that you feel that heart hesitant in yourself while entering into it, and getting that first opportunity just like that I had, it was really something that degraded me, and I felt like, is this something that I should be doing? Now that is when me and my friend, who is the founder, we started up with this internship platform to bridge the gap between genuine recruiters and genuine students. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so as we went along, we also see the problem was not there in just the intern side. There was also plenty of difficulties while recruiting an intern, which were like, you post an application, post an opportunity on platforms like LinkedIn or maybe Internshala, which is dominating the current scenario, right? Now you get thousands of applications. You need to screen through each and everyone to find the right candidate. What we try to solve is with the ease of recruitment is, number one, if a company has an HR department, we are trying to give a reliable solution to them by shortlisting all the candidates and therefore making their task easier. And apart from that, if a company does not have an HR department, we are trying to be the HR for them. Number three, the application sorting process. Now, I get this a lot, that we have the application sorting process, but sometimes it also happens, which is a lack in the student, that they don't know what is actually you need to put in your resumes. That way, that resume might get rejected, and even though he was the best potential candidate for those recruiters. That is when we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so that is where we come in. We have, first of all, we'll come to, I'll cover that in a later part. Now, talking about the verified internship opportunities, all our internships that we offer are paid, or else it's an NGO, right? Talking about the real-time application update, you apply to different opportunities, you don't know where you are. Either you are rejected, you are selected, you are in the mean of the interview, you have to give another interview. You really don't know what's the update. We keep it our task to take the update from the recruiters and give it to them. Right. Talking about a reliable customer support system. Next slide. Now, this is a student personalization system, which we are very proud of. Number one, the onboarding call. As soon as a student registers, they have to fill out just a 2-minute form, and we get the basic details out of them. So first, that onboarding, every student who registers is assigned a manager. Now that manager is responsible to deliver the right opportunity from our opportunity list to the right candidate. And if he does not have the relevant skills, we suggest them some courses, or maybe suggest them to upgrade their resume or their LinkedIn's in order to land the most perfect opportunity. Then we also set their interviews, so they don't have to worry about anything. They just have to register on our platform, and we'll do every hectic job there is. Now, and last but not the least, after an interview, you might even get rejected, right? We never fail to give them the reason why you are rejected, so that you can improve them the next time. And if you're selected, sometimes it happens that you cannot, go and speak to the recruiter, yaar, mujhe ye problem ho rahi hai, right? Now, that is where we come in. We can, that manager is assigned to them forever, their entire internship journey. And whenever they have a problem, they can contact them, and we'll solve the problem for them. Next slide. These are the competitive advantages that we work on. Number one, we have a bounded internship culture. That means we always keep in loop with our manager, with our recruiters and our students, and never keep them out of the journey. So in order to avoid any discrepancies or any problem that either one of them faces. Number two, complete reliability. Both our recruiters and applicants are verified. For example, this also happens that someone who registers does not want an internship in the current scenario. So we update the recruiters with the candidates that are actually interested in that opportunity. Number three, skilled human capital. Our team is trained exclusively for this purpose, to make the lives of an intern and a recruiter very easy by solving to each and every query that they have with ultimate patience. Last but not the least, bridging the gap. Now, we that is basically when I started off bridging the gap between genuine recruiters and genuine students. Moving along. These are the products that we also offer, and all our products are best in the rate market, which is resume optimization services, LinkedIn optimization, and image consultancy course, which involves interview training, how to sit in an interview, how to behave in an interview, what to say, how to put out your best interest, how to put out your strengths, and even if you get selected, how to behave in a company, how to talk to your superiors, how to talk to your colleagues, and also a little bit of image consultancy, which involves small talks in a parties, how to keep on the conversations going, and other things. These are our stats currently. Yeah, so we have over 1,100 students engaged. We have 130 plus companies onboarded, 10 plus cities targeted, and we have created over 500 opportunities. Talking about the timeline of Earn Young, first we got incubated at BNS, which is a very huge achievement for us. We got that mail on 31st December. Then we got featured in a local newspaper of Indore by the name of First Print. And very recently we got in a program by the Vadvani Foundation, the Next Gen program, which is starting this Monday. So this is our team. I'm the co-founder, and we also have a founder. He is currently not available and from different area. Right. So I think, so that is all about Earn Young, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Manav. Now I would request our keynote speakers to directly ask the questions to the founders, if they have some.
So I think the questions come in. The request to the keynote speakers of today, the people who have had immense experience in nurturing and funding and taking the various startups to the next stage and creating success out of them. We are so privileged to have Mr. Varun Verma from Lightbox, Mr. Somajit Guha, and Mr. Prabhanjan Dotre. And I have had an opportunity to work with all three of them on different occasions. What I would request each one of them is that if they can come in and then give their top advisors feedback or questions to ponder to each of these startups. I'm not so sure whether we have time at this point in time on this event for them to be able to respond, but what are the questions that they would want these startups to walk away thinking? So if you could actually give them, and then if you could give the larger audience that's there with us today, the general comment listening from these startups, the lessons that you would like them to think about before they march on these startup journeys. So that would be great. And then if you have any deep interest in any one of them, and I'm sure that some of them are very exciting that you may find, we would be very happy to put them in direct touch with you for a longer conversation. I know that the format today doesn't allow for a deeper, longer conversation with each of them, and my apologies for that. So may I request Varun to start? Varun, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, Varun, thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much, Varun. I know that you are busy and you have other pressing things. Please.
No worries. No worries at all. Doctor, just one quick question is, you had asked me to speak on the fundraising. That's what I should focus on right now, right?
So if you could actually listening to them, if you have a very specific advice or suggestion that you want any of these startup to think about, you can leave them with that question. And then if you can give us a general idea, lessons that you have learned from others and the lessons from these stories that you would want everybody who is wanting to start up or wanting to become an entrepreneur to think about.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So first of all, to everyone hosting the event, thank you for having me. It's a real privilege and honor to be here. Congratulations to all the startups and the founders. I think you're all doing some great work. It's really, really heartening to see some of the problems that you're choosing to solve, right? Whether that's around menstruation, around sustainability, around generating employment. I think those are all really cool and really the need of the hour. If one of the things as a fund, we've realized is that as somebody who invests in consumer technology businesses, We were doing our own thesis building a couple of years ago, and we identified that the two biggest risks to consumption actually exist from environmental factors and social inequity, right? Because if people are going to be fighting for water and food and land, there's no way they're going to be indulging in any of the other activities like buying jewelry or cars or anything of that nature, right? And so, given the fact that how the world develops and evolves over the next couple of decades, India will have a large role to play in that. I think it's extremely important for us to build sustainable businesses and models that not only work better for the environment, but also help create social equity. That was really exciting for me to see. I think as far as the questions were, and I have very specific questions for every company, and maybe we can connect after this when there is more time and at leisure to talk about those issues. But what I'll do is maybe I'll generally talk about fundraising, and through that, I'll leave you with some food for thought, hopefully, as you go about trying to scale and build your own companies. So look, to start with, being an entrepreneur is not easy, right? I've never been one, but I've been very close to being one. I've built a startup before this, and now I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I can tell you it's the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life. I'll also tell you that it's the most rewarding thing you'll ever do in your life. So good luck. And there are days where you will feel like giving up, and more days will feel like that. But the days when you feel rewarded, then nothing will feel like that. And I don't know if you all saw Freshworks, which was this large SaaS company that just went public and on the NASDAQ just a couple of days ago. And the Indian flag was there, and Girish, who is the founder, was there with a bunch of people. There were 500 crore patis created because of the value of the company. All really, really proud, right? And it all on very visuals that fostered a lot of pride, and not just amongst people who were closely associated with the business. I think even people who were detached like myself, right? It felt like this was a coming of age of India, and you feel really proud of what Mr. Girish has achieved. So that said, I think one of the keys to being a successful entrepreneur is obviously fundraising, right? And fundraising is, let me begin by telling you, fundraising is an art and not a science. If it was a science, I would not be here talking to you about it. There would be plenty of books written on it, and you could follow an algorithm or a flow chart, and you would get the money you needed in your bank. We all think that, I have a business, it's clear, there's a large market, my product is good, it's sourced sustainably, customers are wanting it, there's no reason why I shouldn't get funding. And I can tell you there are 3,000 reasons why you will not get funding, right? And every person you speak to will give you a new innovative answer of why they do not want to give you money. So much so that you will lose hope at some point or the other, right? And hence it's an art, right? And there are so many factors that go just beyond your business into your ability, that influence your ability to raise money, right? You could be talking to someone who's just having a bad day, right? And it could be as literally small as that may influence that person's ability or that person's desire to give you money or not, right? The other reality is that even though you may run a good business, it may not fit with everyone's. Different investors may be looking for different things, right? Like Soko, very cool startup, but there may be people who don't want to invest in consumer-focused businesses, or there may be people who want to focus on more mature businesses, right? So there are all sorts of reasons why funding doesn't happen, and you must remember that it's an art, and it's an art and not a science. Now, how do you get good at this art? How do you accomplish this art, right? Or how do you succeed at doing this? I think the one thing you must realize is that funding is not a point in time. You can't wake up in the morning and say, I need to raise money today, so I'm going to go out and in 2 weeks, I'm going to close my round of funding. It doesn't work like that. A lot of funding is around building relationships, and there's no science to building relationships, right? And that's why there's no science to fundraising. It's a journey, and it's a long, and it can be a long, arduous journey, right? You need to start. And as a founder, once you raise capital or once you start going down that path, you're forever raising capital, right? It's not like you can start raising capital and suddenly say, no, I'm done raising capital, right? Because everyone you've raised capital from will ask you to grow faster and faster and faster, for which you will keep requiring more and more capital, right? And so as founders, I think one thing you must recognize is that one of the key drivers to your success is going to be your ability to raise capital, and it's something as important as it is to run your business, make a nice product, and build community and put content out. It's equally important to do fundraising, right? And so it's very important for you to continuously be in fundraising mode almost. You should always be reaching out to investors, always be talking to them, sharing updates with them about your business, reaching out to them for advice on things that you may be facing, challenges you may be facing day to day. For example, you were manufacturing in Bhopal, you want to now start expanding to different parts of the country. What should be a go-to-market strategy? How should you be thinking about customer acquisition? What are acceptable levels of different metrics that you're tracking to? And so it's a journey that you're continuously going to be on, and you should recognize that, and you should be fully invested in that. That journey obviously starts with your ability to identify the right kind of people for your business, right? And the reason that's important is that you get the highest ROI on your effort, right? So there's no point reaching out to people like me when it's your stage of business, because we don't come in that early, right? And so it's important for you to know where you're investing your time. But if you're coming to people like myself to build the relationship with the hope to raise capital 2 years later, that's perfectly fine. So every time you go into a meeting, you should know the person you are raising funds from, or you're talking to raise capital from, very clearly. You should understand their backgrounds, what companies they invest in, what are some of the companies they have invested in. You should have a certain set of questions, and you should be very clear about what you're trying to achieve from that meeting. The last thing I'll tell you about fundraising is that once you're in that meeting, it's obviously about telling a story. Startup raising money is about storytelling. It's an art, and the art is storytelling, right? It's relationship building and storytelling. The more you can enamor people or capture their imagination with your storytelling ability, the higher your chances are of raising capital. If someone at your stage of, especially given where you are in terms of the evolution of your companies, if someone is diving too deep into your numbers, they are not finding enough emotional reason to care for your company, which is why they are trying to dive into the numbers to find logical sense to care for your company, right? And it's going to be very hard for you to convince someone based on the numbers today in your businesses to invest in the companies. They have to, great stories beat great numbers, and that's the reality, right? You see, like, for example, Cred, it's a $4 billion company. If you looked at the numbers, there's probably very little reason why you would value it at $4 billion. But Kunal Shah just knows how to tell a great story. There's no doubt he will grow into that valuation. I have no doubt about it. He will grow into that valuation, but people are ready to put that money behind that story because they believe he will grow into that valuation, right? And so you need to practice telling that story. Tell it to the guard under your building, tell it to your mom, your dad, your uncle, your father, your sister, everyone, whoever you can find. You need to be telling them the story and seeing how they react to you telling them the story. What are the parts and when you talk to people, you can see where when they seem interested and when they seem uninterested, right? And so you need to pick up on those cues and realize that these are the parts of the stories that work well, these are parts that don't work well, and you need to keep refining that storytelling ability, right? And you need to tell that story. Everyone in your company needs to tell that story. Your employers need to tell that story. Your employees need to tell that story. Eventually, your investors need to tell that story, right? Because the belief should start with you, but it should spread like wildfire across all your stakeholders. Your customers should be able to tell your story at some point in time, right? And that's only going to happen if you go out and continuously tell the story to more and more people. Because eventually, your employees will also come to work for you because they buy into the mission, right? They're taking huge risks to come and work for a startup, right? If you want the best guys to choose working for you versus going to work for someone like a Cred, and the reality is, the quality of people you hire is also going to be a big determinant in your ability to succeed. You need to have a story that you can make them care about very, very deeply, right? So storytelling is extremely important as an entrepreneur, not just for fundraising, for various things. So I guess those are the three big things for me when it comes to fundraising. Fundraising is an art. It's not a science. It's a journey. It's not a point in time. You can't just say, today I'm going to raise money, tomorrow I'm stopping, and then 5 months later I'm going to start again. You have not earned the birthright to raise capital. You have to work very, very hard for it. And then finally, fundraising is about storytelling. And the better the story you tell, the higher your odds are going to be of your ability to fundraise. Yeah. So like, just as an example, right? I think during the Soko pitch, I forget the name of the lady who made it, but she spoke about how she had a personal story in there, right? And that captured people's attention, I would imagine. At least it captured mine, attention, imagination. And now I was like, okay, this girl is empathetic about the situation. She understands it. She cares deeply about it. I was intrigued. So I kept hearing more and more and more. That video she had, absolutely fabulous. It was edgy. It had high production quality. So those are the sorts of things or tools that help you tell your story, and you need to identify those tools and keep telling your story well. Yeah, that's what I had to say. I'm happy to answer any questions now or later, and please feel free to reach out to me after this event as well, and happy to help in whatever way I can.
Thanks, Varun. Thank you so much. I think what we're going to do is that I would ensure that the startups that you are interested in, we can actually set up separate meetings with each one of you, whoever is interested in talking to whichever startups. And there's some good piece of advice is actually coming, not just for these startups, but for generally everybody who's actually thinking about starting up, telling their stories and raising funds. Thank you so much. May I request Prabhanjan, if you are there, some of the key questions, food for thoughts that you would like to leave some of these startups with, and then the general recommendations that you would have, the way you have seen companies getting funds or building businesses and succeeding. And thank you so much for being with us today, Prabhanjan.
Thank you, Professor Kharid. I really appreciate this opportunity to be a part of this this event, and likewise, I completely mirror Varun's thoughts. First of all, a huge round of congratulations to all the startups. It's never easy to be out there and do what you guys are doing. Whether you meet success or failure, of course, my wishes are for success. But even if you, I think, like the cliche that everyone would keep telling you, failures are the best teachers. Other than Professor Curry, of course. But let me put it this way. So, of all the startups that I've interacted with over the last 10 odd years, there are a couple of things which have worked for us, and there are a couple of things which we have obviously seen as the gap areas. And this is probably sort of putting Varun's thoughts in slightly different words. The story makes a huge difference, right? How you play out the story is the most critical part of the startup. And how I'm going to look at that is look at it from the perspective of what is the genesis of the concept that you're working on. What has inspired you to get into that space, right? There is a start to the thought. That thought could either be saying that, this Flipkart got to $16 billion, so I want to create a marketplace of my own. That's perfectly all right. People would call it herd mentality, people would call it a Me Too mentality, but that's okay. As long as the market is available out there, there's nothing wrong in it. Or it could be genuinely identifying a problem, which after having done due research, you still haven't been able to find a solution to. And therefore that becomes the inspiration. Now, I underline the phrase after having done due research, because we have seen a lot of people come to us and say, you know what, this is something that only I am doing this in the world and nobody else is doing it. And I have already rejected 5 startups on the same thought process. So, that doesn't really work well. That's an immediate conversation breaker for us. So that's the first part. I think the genesis, the inspiration, and the validation of that inspiration is what is very, very important. The next thing that we have seen a lot of startups fail at, and again, like I'm saying, I'm going to be talking about where I've seen the most failures happening, so that you guys can be, you can try and steer away from those, is the product market fit. Now, a lot of people will come and tell you that the regular sequence in which a startup grows is you look at the fleshing out the thought. Like Dr. Shastri said at the very start of the event, it is a story of going from idea to imagination, but then beyond that, it's about building the POC, and then most importantly, the product market fit. A POC is typically what you do within 50 people around you. A product market fit is when you go across the length and breadth of the country and you try and figure out, is there really a viable market for this particular product or for this service or for this concept. A lot of people fail at product market fit because they have defined a product, they have created a product or a service by their own assumptions, by their own extrapolations, saying, I believe this is what would work. I believe I've seen this in Bhopal, I've seen this in Bombay, this is a problem statement, and therefore this would work. But what is a problem statement in Bombay may not be a problem statement in Assam. What is a solution in Bhopal may not work in Chennai. And that's the best you have in terms of you operating a startup in India. In India, every state has 10 different ecosystems. You cannot get a more diversified market than India. So I think as a promoter, you have to do justice to your own concept by spending enough and more time in validating the entire concept from a product market fit perspective. The third most important aspect to me, I believe, over and above what Varun has correctly mentioned, that the fundraising is really an art, it's not a science. But there is some bit of science, principally driven by Mr. Bill Gates' Excel, which feeds into that art of storytelling. And that science is, when do you decide to raise funds? How much do you decide? And how do you decide to raise funds? Now, a lot of times we've seen people coming up to us at a very seed stage, at a very idea or a concept stage, and saying, you know what, I think this is going to change the world. I want $1 billion. It doesn't work that way. You have to come to a point where I can see skin in the game of the promoter itself. If you're not willing to put your last dime on the line, then why should I put my first dime on the line? It's as simple as that. So until and unless there's skin in the game, you should not go down that path saying, okay, I want funds just because I have a startup and this is how the world works. No, sorry, this is not how the world works. You need to be able to know, why do you need those funds and when do you need those funds? And when I say how, what I see is as a lost thought in this whole new space of startups is going back into the old economy. Right, probably 15, 20 years back. I mean, now I realize that I'm old enough to say that was my generation. This is not my generation. But going back into those days, any new business that would come up would typically start putting their own money on the line. Then they would start raising credit from whichever channel available, and then they would, even dare to think about equity funding. That entire sequence is completely reversed. We are seeing more and more promoters coming up and demanding equity funding on day one. Then they're saying, okay, if need be, we'll go down credit. By the way, my own money is going to come in last because I'm putting in so much time, so much effort, right? I think that there is a lot of merit in that old economy thought process. You still have to try and figure out what is it that you're raising your funds. And therefore, whether you want that fund in the form of credit or in the form of equity. Equity, please understand this, that equity will always be the most expensive source of funding. I'm absolutely certain Swamiji and Varun would reflect these thoughts, would mirror these thoughts. That equity funding is the most expensive. And therefore, at any given point of time, the maturity that you show in terms of being able to explain whether you want the funds in the format of credit or in the format of equity goes a long way in sort of demonstrating your maturity as a startup founder, as a promoter. And thankfully, I mean, you couldn't have found a better time to be an entrepreneur. India is opening up in all sorts of ways. There's tons of equity funding that is coming into India. There's the affluent masses are opening up for investments. Earlier, investments and private equity investments was the domain of the ultra HNIs. Now it is becoming a domain, a far more accepted investment asset class. And it's not just in equity, but also in debt. A lot of products are coming up in the debt space where not so ultra HNIs are participating for smaller rounds with smaller ticket sizes. So credit is not as inaccessible as it used to be earlier. Credit is not about banking and NBFCs anymore. There are multiple avenues and channels available out there. So I think as long as you figure out what your genesis and what's the inspiration of the idea, what is the product market fit after doing the due diligence, and how you intend to raise your money, whether it is credited, is it equity, what's your skin in the game. All of that is what sort of completes the recipe, or rather adds on to the recipe that Varun explained to you in terms of making this venture, whichever one that you are starting off, a successful one. And all the best to you guys. I mean, what you've done till now is amazing. What you continue doing is great. May the power be with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pravinjan. You're talking about art and science, and then I remember that somebody actually told me on one of your investees that how you actually open your own Excel sheets and models and begin to ask them questions to fill in the numbers that you would ask them, and then validate what the numbers are actually saying about the viability of the investment. So yeah, it's not the perfect science. I think Ashwath Damodaran would also agree with that. It's an art to some extent, but there is something to be done with that Excel as well. So
you need one Bill Gates in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. And listening to you and Varun, I think we should also set up a separate time when we can actually have a panel and then have a more conversations about the different experiences and then the styles, and then how we can support some of these wonderful people who are taking initiatives for startups. I would now like to invite Swamijit Guha. The beauty is that all Swamijit and then Prabanjan and then Varun, they come in at different stages. They have different styles of funding. They work with various different sources of the funds from where they source funds to fund the startups. So Swamijit. Welcome, Swamijit.
Thank you, Professor Kare, for inviting me today. First of all, congratulations to you for organizing such a wonderful session today, and to the entire team. Secondly, my sincere apologies. I had some issues with the internet for logging in, and then I had to be late. I hate being late, but I was late today, so my sincere apologies for that. I think a lot has been covered by Varun and Pravanjan. I don't want to ponder on that. So I work with two different organizations. One is called StartUp Ventures, which is purely into mentoring, where we say entrepreneurship is a combination of art, science, and practice. Science is what you know, art is where we are as mentors and coaches do for you, guide you, and practice is what you end up doing and strategizing. I think that has been covered extensively by Varun and Pravanjan. My other side is also work for a company called I run an angel network called Winners, which is into early stage investments. StartUp also, there are a group of investors who invest in startups, which are again very early stage startups like yours. Few things. So one of the suggestions that came from Dr. Kare is that if we can point out some questions for the startups to ponder on. I missed one startup due to my delay, but overall, there are a few generic points that I want you to ponder on, and then I'll go and if time permits, I'll just give startup-wise specific points to ponder on, and then I'll let Professor Kare know which are the startups with whom I'd like to have a more detailed discussion. Generic points. See, the point is that one of the things that you need to really ponder on is what is the problem you're trying to solve. A lot of the time when I ask someone what is the problem you're trying to solve, oh, we are building a platform, oh, we are building this product, oh, we are building this. That's a solution. You need to think about what is the problem you are trying to address. Second is that why will someone come to you? And a lot of you have talked about competitive advantage, but no one talked about competitive landscape. You need to understand who is your competitor and who could be your potential competitor, and what are the alternatives available. Sometimes the alternatives can be as equally efficient as yourself. So does that make any sense for you to work in that area? The other point I think Varun was talking about is the failure. One of the things that you should definitely consider or look into is if you have to fail, you have to fail fast. Learn from it. This is the only space in the entire how will I say, professional domain of human being, where failure is actually good if you are able to fail fast, learn from it, and then kind of pivot or do something different. Third point that I think most of you did not talk about is what stage you're in. Where are you in terms of your journey? What's your traction? What's your roadmap? These are very important information, as Varun was emphasizing a lot on storytelling. A storytelling, it's a narrative, but the narrative has to be evidence-based. A lot of you will talk about secondary research and everything. I like particularly Soko, where Janvi's presentation, where she talked about her personal experience. That hooks up investors. If you're speaking to investors, even to a client, that kind of tells they are speaking from their personal experience. But that often can be a bias. So then you need to emphasize on, okay, I faced this problem, then I realized, was this problem unique to me or someone else? Then you need to tell how many people you have spoken to, what they have told about. These are the few things that you need to ponder about. See, at the end of the day, investment, even in early stage investment, so early stage investment is very different than late stage investment, where in early stage investment, a lot of investment happens on the gut feel from the investors. But then also there are a few things that they definitely look into. First is how innovative is the idea. Second is definitely how big is the scope, or how big is the opportunity, how big is the total addressable market. So that is something that you need to also talk about. And how you're planning to get into that market. So these are the few things, whether the team is capable of doing it or not. So while forming your team also, you need to be very, very careful. We are best friends, so we form this team. We form this startup. But we are both from management, from marketing division, or from marketing specialization. Does that complement? Yes, it does, because one of us is an engineer who is going to build a tech platform. Definitely. So when you're looking for your co-founder, you should look at complementing skill sets rather than kiske saath mera chalta hai. So that is also important, that the wavelength has to be matched, but complementing skill sets needs to match more. If that means that I have to partner with someone who's not my best friend, but kind of acquaintance, we get along pretty well, so be it. So these are the few pointers with startups. I'll just name them and give you feedback. This is just a feedback. This is not a criticism. One thing what I liked about all of your presentation is that you are all in a space where you're trying to solve a problem. It's very unique. It's not everyone is doing the same thing, but then some of you are in a more challenging area than others. That's all I have to say. For startup wise questions, beyond books, Anusha, right? If I'm not mistaken. So again, the problem statement and the competitive landscape that you need to highlight a lot. And I think you are on to too many different things. You're spreading yourself thin. Focus on one area of this problem and figure out whose problem is worth solving. And the best way of thinking of it is who's going to pay you to solve the problem. In the sense, who's in this problem, who's getting impacted the most. So that's how you need to look into this. Talmail, again, what is the problem you're trying to solve and who's your target audience? I did not get a very clear picture on your target audience. Please be more specific on that. It sounded more generic. And one other thing, just because you are doing a perfectly certified copper and everything, it is not a very good sign to talk about others are doing bad things. If they are, let them be. You're not here to talk about what others are doing. You're not here to talk about anything negative about others. You're here to talk about how you're better than others, not the other way, how others are worse than you. That often puts up investors. So this is just a suggestion. And again, your competitive landscape. You talked about your competitive advantage, but I did not hear anyone who's doing this. I mean, one of your biggest competitor could be Chumbak. I did not hear their name and how you're different from them. Why should I choose you over Chumbak or Rare Planet? I can give you 10 different names. I'm sure there are others who can also do that. Janvi, one thing was missing in your entire presentation was unit matrix. How much does it cost for you to make one of those values? I think this is very close to me personally because I also are part of an NGO where we are actually working with women's self-help group where we are sponsoring their entire manufacturing unit of sanitary napkins and they are selling it on their own. So I'd like to definitely talk to you on this. Your competition again missing and what stage you're in your business. You showed the product, but where are you? Are you selling it online? I think Talmil, we did a very good job in saying that we are in Amazon, this is where we are in, you can buy it and everything. That gives a lot of perspective. So that is something that all of you, those who have not done it, should actually focus on. Earn Young, what is the biggest problem in recruitment? I have worked with quite a few interns in my life, in my different jobs, and I'm sure everyone has. The biggest problem is not, so it looked like you're trying to kind of solve the student side of the problem more than the company side of the problem. The biggest challenge for any company is accountability of a student intern. That's the biggest challenge. And I did not see anything over there. If you're solving that also, nothing was talked about that. You did not talk about that. So that is something you need to focus on because the challenge is not companies' opportunities. There's 1,000 opportunities in companies. Every day in LinkedIn, one or other guy is publishing opportunities for, There's internshalas of the world. Again, you did not talk about your competition. But the main problem, I think the problem is not about not having opportunities, but the problem is more on how do you ensure accountability for both sides. Sometimes students don't get paid after doing the job. How do you ensure that also? But I myself have suffered 3 or 4 times. They just did not come to didn't do the job and said we had exams. And they might have had exams, but I suffered because of that. So these are the things you need to also look into. I think that's all I have to say to every one of you. Good job. I love the confidence that all of you showed in your presentations and all. But look into those things. Try to bring in some numbers. See, at this stage, everyone will know that these numbers don't make any sense because at the end of the day, you're starting up. But then it gives them an impression, as an investor, it gives them an impression that you are actually thinking numbers. So bring in some numbers also, that helps. And I absolutely agree with Varun on this, that storytelling is very important. The narrative is very important at this stage. And if they're digging deep into your numbers, that means they are not convinced with your narrative. And that narrative has to come with a flow, with a evidence-based flow. What I'll do is, with Dr. Khare's permission, I will share a kind of a flow or a format that I ask the startups to kind of fill in providing their information in a day that you can use as a reference frame of building your decks. How do you build your investor deck on that? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for this opportunity of listening to such interesting, good ideas. That's all. Thank you. And if you have got any questions, please feel free to send them to me in however you'd like to, in my WhatsApp number or in my email address. I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Swamijit. I know that Professor and you also came through. Thank you so much for offering us to share your flow chart so that we can actually share this with the students. And when as they move along, they can do the better preparations in terms of their pitches and how they make pitches. This will also help us run our entrepreneurship course, where we have the practice ventures, where the ideas germinate and the journey begins. I know that each one of you have tons of things to do. You have spent such generous times with us. And I know that each one of you were willing to spend more time, provide specific feedback to each of the startups. What I would do is that I would connect with you separately and then ask for your interest and set up separate meetings with each of these startups, which are of your interest for a variety of reasons in terms of where you see them in terms of potential investment opportunities, or because you have a passion where you're already involved in solving similar problems or help solve similar problems. Thank you so much. I know that we are running behind schedule a bit. VC sir, thank you so much for actually spending time. I know that you have another session coming up. Without further delay, I would request you to give us your parting comments. And then we're going to come back to Dr. Ashish, who is going to actually give us the wrapping up comments and then do the vote of thanks. So thank you so much, sir.
Friends, I apologize for coming in the middle, but I have to be somewhere else at 2 o'clock. So I'll just make a few quick comments. First, I must compliment and congratulate all those who spoke about their startup. The experts have talked about the technicalities. As somebody who has very little idea about business and startups, I thought the energy with which all of them presented their ideas was truly appealing. The energy, the passion, the openness, and of course, the confidence with which they presented what they did, I think was truly fascinating and truly commendable. So congratulations to each of you on where you have reached. And I'm sure it will go far, far ahead. I just would like to bullet 3 important points which our 3 experts made. And there was a thread of connectivity between all the 3. Varunji made this very important point about the art of raising funds. We have talked about it as an art, we have talked about it as a science, and then we talked about it as a practice. And he emphasized so importantly how important relationships were in that art of raising funds. And I would encourage all our startup leaders to take that factor in mind. Prabhanjan expanded on that point when he said, while you need to have a good story, while it's important that you have the art of storytelling, Prabhanjan brought that very, very focused point that not only should you have a story, the story should have credibility. See, the credibility, storytelling is an art, but being able to get your audience to buy in on the story requires an element of credibility. And does that credibility come through in the way you tell the story, for which Saumyajit brought another interesting point. Is your story simply based on your passion, or do you back it with evidence? Is there evidence to demonstrate credibility in your story? I come from a totally different world, which is the study of politics. And when I do my studies in politics, I find the most important factor is credibility. I heard somebody telling me in the last election, why do you want for this? Why do you want to vote for this leader? He said, niyat saaf hai. Kaam hai ya nahi, mujhe malum nahi, niyat saaf hai. See, niyat saaf hai was the most important point. So this whole combination of having a story, building a relationship, developing your credibility, and providing evidence. I think our three experts have given you very critical points to look at. And I think you're all very lucky to be able to get this type of inputs, which I must compliment my colleagues for having created an opportunity for. So thank you, and I wish this initiative all the best.
Thank you very much, sir. I must say one simple thing. When I was sitting over there and listening to all of them, I was remembering my old days as a venture capitalist, because before joining academics, I worked as a VC. So I was tempted to ask questions about it, what was happening. Definitely same way Varun and Soumyajit and Prabhanjan must also be thinking. So the summarization has been done beautifully by VC sir. I don't think so I need to say anything about it now. But I must say that all of you have very good ideas. There are certain things which I also felt that you could have done. I'm not sure about it. So if I talk about individually, I'm not go about it, but I'm not sure whether you have that patent on that product or not. You have to think about that. So if you don't have it, file for it right now, because this is something which can be easily copied otherwise. But if you have a patent, so that becomes, then even you can go for something like a licensing and all those kind of deals also, because there are n number of companies. You need not to enter into that market. You can think about licensing it and sit at home and start earning a huge chunk of money. Let somebody else do the job. So there are n number of opportunities. So I was at that point of time tempted to think on those lines also. Same way, talking about yours also, there are n number of opportunities that when you go to the customer side and all those things, image, like Prabhanjan said, Soumyajit said, and Varun also said, is you have to talk about storytelling. When we're sitting across the table, we are only looking at certain key points. And if you click on those key points, the funding is available. That's the reason I'm going to throw it a percentage as a number to you. Globally, only 3% of these startups gets funding. 90% don't get any funding. You have to be in those 3%. So your storytelling has to be very good. You have to back it with the evidence. I'll tell you one simple thing, which I'm very, very big fan of from very old kind of time also. I'm not sure whether you've seen those or not. One is Dragon Dance and Shark Tank, which is going to come to India. I was listening to one of the episodes I was watching, and I loved that story. This was about Booty Bag. I'm not sure, maybe you must have heard about that. That's a subscription-based model for women underwears, which is started with $300. And in 3 to 5 years range, I'm not sure about it exactly, it was 3 or 5 years, she had a revenue of $15 million, 1-5. And at that point of time, when I was watching the episode, the interest in the sharks to have a chunk of that money from that young lady was reversed, because she had proved everything with those numbers that this can be scaled up. And only $300 to 15 million with no funding at all. She did not raise any debt. She had no equity investors. And later on, she got the deal and all those kind of things. So that is what you need to earn. That is what Prabhanjan, Varun, and Soumyajit were talking. You have to base it with the evidence. You have to base it with the numbers, your business model. Why would anybody come and invest into your company? You have to show them the numbers. That is what the numbers are. You started with, let's say, about 100 rupees in last year's sales. This year, it has gone up to 120, or whatever it is. You have to talk about those numbers and all those things. So I'm not going to go much into that because I know the time is there. So my official task is to give the vote of thanks. So definitely I would like to begin by thanking VC sir and other university authorities for giving us this platform where you people can come and present, and thinking from the younger generation who's right now in the classrooms to be motivated by looking at you people and getting ready to go forward and think of converting their ideas into imagination, like VC sir said. So that something which you people have done today is, you don't realize it, that at a young age, what you have done right now is you have created some kind of seed in their mind that if they can do it, I can do it. Because otherwise what happens is, when we look at the Flipkarts and Amazons of the world, we feel they're not like us. They're somebody which we don't connect with. With you people, all these youngsters who are watching through the online platform right now because of the COVID-1, they would feel motivated that these are somebody who were like us. Maybe a few years back, they were sitting in the same seats, they were sitting in the same classrooms, and they have done it. So if they've done it, definitely we can also do it. So that is something which I would like to thank you. And Nilesh sir, thank you very much. This is something which definitely you inspire every day. So need not to say that on. And thank you very much to all the three VCs, Prabhanjan, Soumyajit, and Varun. Now you have made your life difficult in one way by promising that you'll be allowed to connect. I'm sure you don't have that much time, but the kind of openness you have shown for the youngsters to learn from your experiences, something which everybody looks forward to it. And definitely a big thank to all the kind of entrepreneurs who came over here, whether we talk about Harshi and Parag. Parag, thank you very much, not even presenting us, but helping out other also to come up and kind of be the prop at that point of time. She used it very brilliantly. So Janvi, that's a brilliant one and very unique one, something which you can, there are a lot of people who can connect with it. Akshat and I think Abhishri and Manav and I think last one name, Anisha, if I'm not wrong. Anusha, my apologies for that. So I'd like to thank every one of you for presenting your ideas, and you were willing to come up to stage and not got thrashed, but definitely you were willing to expose to the kind of whatever pitfalls you have in your model right now and coming out of. Big thank to marketing team and for organizing such an event over the week and all those things. IT and admin team for making sure, because all these events in COVID times only because of them. And thank you very much for the students for organizing the entire event in such a brilliant way. Thank you very much and God bless you. Thank you.